More than 250 experts in the traffic signals industry joined together in person to hear a range of papers here in Nottingham. These recordings are brought to you by AGD Systems, Colas, SRL Traffic Systems, Smart Video and Sensing, Vivacity and Unex Traffic.
Hi everyone. So, as he says, I've got the Britney Spears mic, so hopefully you can hear me okay. Right, sometimes disparagingly called the passive safety guy, but I think really it's something we all need to have a bit of an interest in. Right, so what is passive safety? I think we're here today I've got an awful echo actually, sorry, so it's a bit funny here. We've got the Passive Safety Electrical Guide, which we're launching today. It's published by the IHE, and it fills in a few holes with BSEN 12767. But first, what is passive safety? I know most of us are aware of this, but for any new entrants to the industry, we'll have a look.
I'm sorry, we've got some feedback, Alistair, so I'm going to change your mic again. My apologies.
No worries.
We're down to one mic now.
Oh dear. So I can't do my Britney.
No, actually not. That's the look. This one being on, is it? Okay, we'll try again.
Okay, thank you. Stick that in my pocket. Oh yeah, that's much better. I can actually hear what I'm doing. Anyway, so what is passive safety? It was a beer advert for a South African beer. Really don't know what point they were trying to make with that, but I think it illustrates this point quite well. That was a TRL test done back in the day. It's a 114 millimeter diameter steel pole. So it's equivalent to a traffic signal pole. You can see with this the level of damage and devastation to that vehicle. The intrusion into the vehicle, engine ended up in the passenger compartment, deformation to the deformation to the roof, windscreens broken, etc. That's a 100 kph test, and it was actually the reason why passive safety, the concept of it started in the UK. A chap called David Milne was at this test at TRL, and he was a structures engineer for Highways Agency as it was then. He felt that the devastation that a ubiquitous piece of roadside equipment could have on people was unacceptable. And for that reason, he went off and researched about passive safety and eventually included it in the design manual for roads and bridges. I don't think he actually told his bosses what he was up to, but anyway, it ended up in there. So that has progressed, and different TAs, TDs, etc. These days we've got BSEN 12767, the latest edition, and that's how it's progressed. Within National Highways, a chap called Jim Gallagher's taken on that mantle in recent years, and it's ongoing. So, this guidance document is published by the Institute of Highways Engineers, and we've got some statements up there about its vision and mission. And I think it's important to note that, the IHE provides professional development opportunities, support and leadership for individuals in the industry. As part of this approach, they have produced a number of different guidance documents for use across the whole industry. And these include the Science Structures Guide, which was published a bit earlier this year, the Traffic Control and Information Systems guidance as well that was produced, I think it was last year. I think Gafford was involved with that wherever he is. So, there's a whole library of these different documents. So the Passive Safety Electrical Guide is the most recent of those and is being launched today. My involvement for this has basically come from the experience I've had on the network of what happens when vehicles hit traditional steel structures. Some of those incidents have been absolutely devastating. People have lost their lives or had life-changing injuries. And I think because of that, when you actually see what's going on with that, you feel a sense of responsibility to try and do something about that. So I've been a long-term proponent of passive safety. As that, I became part of the crash-friendly initiative at Mott McDonald many, many years ago, and was part of UK Roads. Phil talked about the sort of mugs and things, but there were a lot of crash demonstrations. I'm sure quite a few of you went to those at different times to see what happens. And back in 2008, I know it doesn't seem possible, I can't be that old surely, but I wrote the chapter in David Milne's Highways Engineer's Manual for Electrical Connections for Traffic Signals. An example of a passive pole hit at low speeds, and next to it is where the signal head finished up. Anyway, so why is a passive safety guide needed? Surely we've got the BSEN, we've got the other requirements within National Highways and DMRB, etc. Well, this actually comes from the latest version of BSN 12767. Has a national annex at the back of the document, and within this it had the electrical requirements, included things like disconnecting plugs, snatch plugs as they're commonly referred to. But in the latest version, the 12767 was simplified so that it was common across all of Europe. So these electrical aspects were removed from the UK National Annex. Now, a lot of ITS roadside installations have got quite complex cable arrangements within these roadside structures. Even in a simple traffic signal pole, you'll have multiple cores. In other pieces of equipment, you can have a whole range of different types of cables. We've got a couple of examples of impact emergency isolation systems, impact sensors and snatch plugs shown there. So the new guidance document examines why impact electrical isolation, IEI systems should be considered when you're designing or implementing roadside ITS structures. It looks at why an IEI system may be required in addition to standard electrical protective devices, the different types of IEI solutions that are available in the UK, and how the selection of the type of pole or column, and that really is the critical element to this. Don't just use one set of IEI solutions for everything. It really is critical that it's suitable for the type of pole that you're putting it on. This guidance document doesn't cover street lighting or lit signs. That's covered by an ILP document that they've already produced. The guide examines the issues that occur when a roadside ITS structure is struck. It uses real-world examples of this to illustrate the issues that underpin it. There's an example there of, as it was, a Sapapole, a Norsk Hydro product that was struck on one of my sites, and you can see, the damage that occurred to that. Again, it's a low-speed site, but shows how one of the failure modes that these can undergo. So the guidance examines the underpinning issues, looks at effective risk assessments, which I think really are a requirement regardless of whether you implement an IEI solution in a design or not. The issues that surround extra low voltage installations, been a lot of discussion over the years about whether or not IEI is appropriate if you've only got 48 volts. And it also looks at other supporting infrastructure which should be considered as part of that design process. So, how do you get a copy of the new guidance document? So, as I say, it's published by the IHE and it's freely available to download as a PDF from their website. And there's I can see. I was going to ask if you want to get your, I wanted to do an experiment with this actually. If you want to get your smartphones out, put your cameras on and see if you can download. You got it, it's working. Right, you can get your copies right now, folks. So I think this is a first we've had for this. Actually, on stage, I'll give you a couple of seconds to get that. Anyway, if you don't get an opportunity to get it now, remember you can go back to the IHE website at any time and download a copy. Okay, so the details will be out there as well on the IHE stand. Remember, if you're not already a member, go and talk to Steve and Tony. They'll be out there to tell you about all the great benefits of belonging to the IHE. I'm a fellow of it, so I am partisan, but it's a great professional institute, so go and say hello at the very least, and they'll tell you about all the advantages of being a member there. At the same time today, I'm also launching 2 books. I've got the second edition for the traffic signals book. Quite a few people will already be familiar with this. It's been well received across the industry and it's been used in quite a lot of the depots for apprentices. It's on the reading lists of universities as well, and is available from Amazon. So that's an introduction to what traffic signals are, do, how they do it. My new book, totally new, is Traffic Control. This is a specialist traffic systems companion to the Traffic Science Manual Chapter 6, Traffic Control. It is a standalone document in its own right, but it is designed to work around the framework of Chapter 6. Over 300 pages, circa 100,000 words, lots of colour illustrations, photographs and worked examples to provide you with an understanding of what's going on in these various elements. So hopefully that's of interest to you or to your colleagues, again, available from Amazon. And that's it. Thank you. Shortish and sweetish. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alistair. I know that passive safety is always something that is a bit of a head scratch. Hopefully, this new guidance will help you in the decision-making process when you're looking at a site, and when you start to think about, do I need to take account of this? You then also have to try and persuade the highway authority that it's relevant, because some highway authorities say, well, we don't do passive safety, but we will use a Sapapole. So
yes, so this should give a bit of a framework so that there's a bit of consistency and confidence that people are doing the right thing in the right situation. But it's not necessarily advocating using IEI solutions at every site, but what it's giving you is the framework to do constructive risk assessment of the installation to understand what the issues are.
Yeah, I know that Four-Way Consulting, they've got quite an interesting flow chart as to their decision-making process. If it then helps you decide, well, what product does that actually then mean in the marketplace, that's sometimes the barrier, where it's low energy, high energy, but where do I find one of those? So, if we open it up to the floor, any questions, anyone?
Oh, Tom.
Read.
Tom Siddall, Four-Way again. Just looking back to your first video of the yellow car being crashed into the pole. That's obviously some fairly old fairly old car compared to the latest car.
It was a very old test. We're going back many years now for that.
Has anything been done, either modelled or for real, of crashing a modern car into such a pole? I know it's a side impact comes into the NCAP testing. Is the impact on the vehicle still anything like that?
So the requirements for that are actually included in 12767, and the types of cars have progressed over the years that are used for these crash tests. But basically, there are different classes of vehicles and at different speeds. The 100 kph that test was carried out is the high-speed test. There are also low-speed tests as well. So there's a framework there that specifies all the different classes of test.
But has a sort of a modern vehicle, if you went to a showroom and bought it today, has a vehicle like that been tested in such a way at these speeds to see the impact of it? No. Is it almost still relevant?
Well, yes, it is, because people still die in vehicles that hit things. And yes, cars have crumple zones, etc. But what you're looking at is the effect of the deformation of a structure causes to the rest of the vehicle. So the impact that causes the intrusion of, say, the engine into the passenger compartment is a really major one. But actually the sort of thing that people don't recognise is actually the issues of roof damage to a car. And if you've got a large structure that actually crushes the roof of the car, that's not part of the crumple zone of the car. It's a different thing. So, not directly answer to your question, but yes, it is really relevant.
Thank you.
Okay, any more burning questions? Otherwise you can buttonhole Alistair at lunchtime, or probably during the rest of his life through IHE or
Thank you, Phil, for threatening me like that. That's much appreciated, mate. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so if we can thank Alistair.
Thank you.